Hello. My boyfriend's birthday is coming up soon, and he happens to be a big fan of cheesecake. So I'm gonna make him one. So I'm actually gonna end up doing a no-bake cheesecake because I don't wanna deal with the cracking at all. I've made probably a dozen cheesecakes in my life, and for the most part, they usually come out uncracked. I had an experience with a cracked cheesecake last year, and I'm actually gonna tell that story while I'm making this one. This cheesecake is gonna come together in 3 parts. We're gonna have the crust, we're gonna have whipped cream, we're gonna have the filling, and a raspberry coulis. Nope. I'm gonna start over at the stove with the raspberry coulis, and I'll get this story started as well. So here we go. When my boyfriend Joel and I started dating, and we were like getting to know each other, like one of the questions that came up was, what's one of your hobbies? And of course I said, I love cooking and I love baking. And I had kind of talked myself up, maybe a little more than I should have, and maybe given myself a little more credit than I should have. But I was with this new guy that I was really starting to like, and I wanted to impress him and like make a good impression. So I might have exaggerated just how good I was. By the time his birthday had come around, we weren't even boyfriends yet, so we were still dating, and we had really only known each other for a couple of months. So when his birthday came around, I was like, you know what? I am gonna make him a cheesecake, but not just any cheesecake. I'm gonna go classic New York style with like the expensive ingredients, but I was gonna make everything from scratch, and not only did I want to impress him, but I just wanted to make him feel special on his birthday. I looked through a lot of recipes online just to try and find one that was a little elevated and would kind of show off the cooking skills that I was claiming to have. So I finally found a recipe, and its claim to fame was foolproof, crack-proof recipe. So I was reading through and I was like, yeah, that's how you make a typical cheesecake. That's how I've made them in the past and how they've come out uncracked before. So I got it and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use this recipe. While my raspberries are on the stove breaking down, I'm actually gonna start making the whipped cream. This is what's gonna make the no-bake part of the cheesecake work. When you mix whipped cream into the batter, that's what's gonna make it set once it's cooled in the fridge. It is important to note that on the weekend of my boyfriend's birthday, my parents were also in town. And of course, when they're visiting, I offer to make everybody dinner. So my time for cooking, making this cheesecake, and celebrating with my boyfriend was very limited. And everything had to be done very quickly, and it had to be done correctly and efficiently just to make sure I had time for everything. So in the limited free time that I had this weekend, I got to work making this cheesecake. It had the goat cheese, it had the cream cheese, it had the eggs, it had the egg yolks, it had the other ingredients, which I can't remember what it was. I was baking the crust, which is actually gonna be the same crust that I'm gonna bake in a minute. And I was on track to getting this thing done on time so we could have dinner with my parents and then celebrate with my boyfriend, which those events were happening on 2 different occasions, so it's not like I could just stack them time-wise. So I make the crust, I make the filling, I get everything ready, and I pop it in the oven, and I bake it for the recommended time and temperature that the recipe called for. Really quick sidebar here, I am going to start making the crust for this, which will be a graham cracker crust with crushed pecans in it. Are you a pecans person or a pecans person? Or do you say pecans? So this will be a graham cracker crust with crushed pecans in it. Maybe a little bit of cinnamon if we're feeling spicy. I know it's a no-bake cheesecake, but I'm actually gonna par bake this crust before I put the filling in. Personally, I think that helps awaken the pecan flavor, and it kind of just holds the crust together a little bit better. But the rest of it will be no-bake. Now, there's been a few times in my life where I feel like I've been lied to. This one, it's up there in like the top 5. Because normally when you bake a cheesecake, the reason it cracks is because it cools too quickly. which is why when you bake them, you typically bake it for the amount of time and then you turn the oven off and just leave it in the oven until the oven comes back to room temperature. Right? I think that's why they crack. It's either the temperature coming up too quickly or cooling too quickly. I actually think both of those can have an effect on whether or not it cracks. When the first bake time had completed, I checked it. I didn't open the oven yet, but I just turned the light on and I could just see through the oven glass, plastic, see-through window, that there was a huge crack in this cheesecake. And I was like, fuck. And I thought, you know what? We can make whipped cream, we can cover it, we can save this. Let's just let it come down to room temperature in the oven and we can assess the damage and try and fix it. So then an hour or so later, I went to check on the cheesecake again, and that thing had cracked so much worse. The top of that cheesecake literally looked like the skin of a desert. That's not what I meant to say. The top of that cheesecake literally looked like a cracked desert surface. It was horrible. It is the worst crackage of any cheesecake I've ever made in my life. And I've made at least like a dozen of these, but it was horrible. And they weren't just like surface cracks, like these cracks went all the way through. And I was like, there is not enough whipped cream in the world that could fix this disaster. Because not only was it cracked, but it was also overbaked. That one's on me. I will take full accountability for that one. And this is what it looked like. Literally spot the difference between these two pictures. But yeah, so I was like, holy shit, I am not gonna serve this to this guy I'm dating, who I wanna impress, who I have told I'm a great baker. So I started panicking. Luckily enough, I had enough batter, not to make a second cheesecake, but I had enough batter and crust left that I could make half a dozen mini cheesecakes in like a muffin tin. I went back to one of my old recipes for little mini cheesecake bites and I baked it according to that. They came out uncracked. They were sunken a little bit, but you know, at this point I was like, I don't have time for this. I filled the little sunken holes with whipped cream and hoped that they tasted good. I topped it with the same raspberry coulis that I made today, threw some decorative mint leaves on it, tried to plate it so it looked nice, and I served it. And despite all of that struggle, my boyfriend really liked it, which I was so relieved, because there was a few minutes there where I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to run to the grocery store and grab one. But we didn't. We persevered, we kept going, and that's it. I've actually never told him this story, so if and when he watches this video, that might be the first time he hears it. So, baby, hi, I love you. Thanks for watching my video. But just know, there was a lot of struggle that went into those little cheesecakes last year. So that's why we're doing the no-bake version this year, because hopefully it's foolproof enough to be a good cheesecake and more importantly, just to help celebrate you, because I love you and I think you deserve the best birthday ever. And here we go. So this has to set in the fridge for about 2 hours until it's set, and then it will be ready to serve. Thank you for coming along on this adventure to hopefully redeem myself on my cheesecake skills. Happiest of birthdays to my boyfriend Joel. I love you. I hope you had a good birthday. To everybody else that I am currently not dating, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Yeah. I would have never thought to put lemon in with the no-bake cheesecake. That makes it spicy.
Yeah. You got your present, bud.
It looks really good. It looks like butterscotch and beer.
Cheers. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I love you, baby.